Hi, this is Gary with MACMOST.com. Let me show you how to use bookmarks in Safari on your Mac. MACMOST is brought to you thanks to a great group of more than 1,000 supporters. Go to MACMOST.com/Patreon. There you can read more about the Patreon campaign, join us, and get exclusive content and course discounts. So your bookmarks are basically a long, organized list of web pages. When you're at a web page, if you think you might want to come back to it again, you can add a bookmark to store it in your web browser and then easily return to that web page at a later time. So for instance, let's go to a website. I'll use my own as an example. And let's go to a specific page. And say you find this page to have useful information and you want to return to it later on, so you may want to bookmark it. Everything you need to use bookmarks is here in the Bookmarks menu. So you can go to Add a Bookmark or Command D to add this bookmark to your list of bookmarks. You get to choose where to save this. So as I said before, bookmarks are an organized list. So you can have folders and subfolders in there to organize your bookmarks. In this case, we're starting off fresh and all I see here are bookmarks and favorites. We'll add this to bookmarks. Now this is the title of the page. It's going to be there by default, but notice how it's editable. I can change this to something else if I want to. I could also add a description, although most people just leave that blank. But the description can include additional information to remind you why you bookmarked this page, or maybe some information to help you navigate around in this page. Let's add. Now if I go back to the Bookmarks menu, remember I got to choose whether to add this to bookmarks or to favorites. I can see here at the bottom all of my bookmarks. There's a favorites folder and you can see there's a bunch of things in it. These are the default items that Apple puts in the favorites folder just so you have something in there to start with. And below that I could see other items, the things that are in the bookmarks folder. And there's the one I just added. Let's add another one by going to Wikipedia and let's do Command D to add that. I'll add that to bookmarks as well. And now I can see under bookmarks I've got these two bookmarks here. This list will just keep growing every time I add something to bookmarks. If instead I added it to favorites, it would appear here in this subfolder. Now I can view bookmarks in different places. I can view them here as we've seen. I could also choose Show Bookmarks. An easier way to do Show Bookmarks is to go to the View menu and Show Bookmarks sidebar. This has a keyboard shortcut. They both do the same thing. They bring up the sidebar here. And now you can see the same thing here that you see here. Although sometimes the items that are hanging out here that are just in the Bookmarks folder are actually in a folder called Bookmarks alongside of Favorites. But in this case they're shown separately like this. Now I have two ways to access these bookmarks. Go to Bookmarks and then select the page like that. Or I could click here in the sidebar and then access the page like that. In the sidebar here I could also edit these. If I control click on any of them or right click on a mouse, two finger click on a trackpad, I can access the ability to rename, to edit the actual address. I could also delete here as well. And notice here I can add a new folder. So for instance I can create a new folder here to start organizing my bookmarks. Maybe I want to have a place where I store news articles. And I can move one of these into that folder just by dragging and dropping. I could also drag and drop it out. Notice how I can also rearrange by dragging these. So if I can move this one below there, I can move this folder above here. I can move folders inside of other folders by dragging one folder into another. And I could click here to reveal the contents of a folder. I could drag things out of a folder like that, for example. Drag it into another folder. Drag from one folder to another. And do anything I really want to organize things. I could even control click on a folder here to delete the folder itself. Another interesting thing you can do in the sidebar is if you double click on any folder, like let's double click on Favorites here, it brings up this view showing you the icon for the site and you see the site itself. Also you can see descriptions here, and if I control click on it here I could edit the description. And you remember before when we added a bookmark we had the chance to write our own description. You can also search your bookmarks here by dragging down and you can see Search Bookmarks. And if I search like that you can see I come up with bookmarks that match that text. So once you have a lot of bookmarks, it becomes easier to search sometimes than it does to remember where it is you put it. Now the ultimate way to view your bookmarks is not to use the sidebar, but to go to Bookmarks and then Edit Bookmarks. And this takes you to a special screen here that gives you a very large view of all of your bookmarks. You can see the folders here and expand them like before. You could easily create a new folder with this button here. So I could create a folder like that. You could drag and drop like before, folders inside of folders, bookmarks inside of folders, rearrange the bookmarks themselves. You could search for bookmarks right here. For any of these you can click on the name once to select and then again and you're editing. The same thing here. So it makes it really easy to edit names and URLs if you need to. You can also control click and get access to the same things in the sidebar. There's rename, edit address, delete, new folder. So you can keep adding bookmarks and organize them as much as you want. Create folders inside of folders. I'll move the science folder inside of news articles and then you can move a bookmark inside of that subfolder. Notice in the bookmarks menu this is all reflected there. I see favorites here. I see there's news articles, there's science, and there are the bookmarks that are stored in news articles science. Now a note about the favorites folder. The favorite folder is a special one. You can't delete it. Notice with news articles I can control click here and delete it. If I control click on favorites I can't delete it. It's there permanently. You can't get rid of it. So favorites is always going to be there and it's used in two special places. One is if you go to View and then Show Favorites bar. The Favorites bar takes all the items from the Favorites Bookmarks folder and it displays them here. And you can leave that up there. If you want to go to any one of them you just click it. So at any time I can jump from Wikipedia over to Apple over to any of these other ones. Now if you add a folder inside of favorites, so I'll drag this into here. So now you can see I've got a folder in favorites. Notice it appears here and I can click on it and it actually reveals and lets me dig down to see the items inside. So the favorites bar seems like it can only contain a handful of bookmarks, but in fact using folders you can put dozens or even hundreds of bookmarks in the favorites bar for easy access. Another place you'll see favorites is when you go to the Start page. And you may have the Start page set up to be your default page. You can do that in Safari Preferences under General and you can have new windows open with the Start page, new tabs open with the Start page. So you may see the Start page a lot. And notice here it shows me favorites here. I can click on this button here at the bottom right and I can edit what's in the Start page so I can turn on or off favorites. As long as favorites is on I should see it here. And I have easy, quick access to anything that's in my favorites folder. And if it's a folder I can click once to dive down into it and keep diving down to get to the bookmarks. So if you actually put all your bookmarks inside of favorites you can access all your bookmarks from the Start page. Another thing you can do with bookmarks is you can open up a folder full of bookmarks as tabs. So for instance here in the favorites bar if I go to News Articles Science notice I've got 3 items here now. I can say Open All in Tabs and each one of those will open in a new tab. Now I also can use tab groups with this. So if I go to Bookmarks, Show Bookmarks here and let's go and find that Science folder and you can see I've got 3 items in it. If I control click on it you can see I can open in new tabs or open in a tab group. So I can create a new tab group that has those 3 things in it. So you can see now I've created that and even named the tab group after the folder. And notice here too whenever you see Open in New Tabs if you hold the Option key down it changes to Replace Tabs. So all the tabs you have open will be closed and these 3 items will be open in their place. Another thing you can do is you can sort your bookmarks. So you can do that here in the Edit view. So you can select any folder. I'm going to control click here on Favorites for instance and you can see Sort By and you could choose Name or Address. Or you could do it here in the sidebar. Let's sort this Science folder here. I'll control click on it, choose Sort By Name and you can see it resorts them by name. You can't get back the original order once you've sorted by name. Although if you just did it you can do Command Z to undo. Another place you're going to see bookmarks is when you're typing here in the address field at the top. For instance if I started typing something like this it's going to come up with a top hit right here, maybe some suggestions, the ability to go right to a search, and also bookmarks and history. So instead of bringing up the sidebar or going to edit bookmarks or even the bookmarks menu, sometimes you can just start typing at the top and then find the bookmark that way. The problems people have with bookmarks is that when you keep adding them, there are too many and they kind of become useless. Bookmarks are most useful when you have the important things there. You can easily find them and get back to them. Once you have hundreds and hundreds of bookmarks, then it's difficult to find anything or even remember what you have bookmarked. So it's important to every once in a while go through and maybe remove old bookmarks and also add new bookmarks sparingly. Remember, anytime you go to a web page, you could go into your history and easily return to the web page using your history. So you don't have to bookmark everything. If you want to go back to something later today, you could just rely on your history to get back there instead of adding a bookmark. A bookmark is more useful when it's something that you know you're going to return to over and over again for years to come. And also don't forget that if you found a web page once, you could probably find it again. You could just search for it and it'll come up. So I often ask myself, would it be pretty easy to find this web page if I wanted to? And if the answer is yes, then I don't bother to add a bookmark. And then one last thing I want to show you is that if you go to System Preferences and then your Apple ID and then you look at iCloud, Safari is one of the items here. You should have that checked. I've turned it off just to demonstrate using bookmarks in this tutorial. But by default it should be turned on. And in that case your bookmarks sync across all your devices. So you're going to see the same bookmarks across your Macs, your iPhone, and your iPad. So there's an overview of using bookmarks on your Mac. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you liked this video, click the thumbs up button below to let me know. I publish new tutorials each weekday. Hit the subscribe button so you don't miss out.